Well, hello everybody. Danny back from Pecan Grove. Out here at the White Peach Orchard, guys. We've had a lot of requests saying that, man, I sure hope you'll do a video showing next year, showing the pecan orchard and the peach orchard and all, about doing another soil sample test about pH, how things change with the minerals and all that. Well, I just happened to have last year's, I went through my records and found last year's soil sample for this right here and comparing it to the one we got this year. Now last year we had a garden right here, and 2 years ago this was nothing but woods right here, and I pushed all the trees off and I shook the dirt out of the roots. I didn't push any of the topsoil off. I didn't put nothing but just, I pushed a tree up, take the grapple and get it out of here, left all the topsoil that was here, and it was new ground. When we planted our garden last year, I came in and flat broke it and kind of leveled it all back up good and smooth, and we made our rows in here. If you watch the videos from last year, you'll see the stuff that we grew back here. And we did a soil test on the new ground, and what I want to do is take that last year's soil sample and I want to compare it to the one we did this year, and to show you why it's so important to amend your soil and test it every year to make sure as to what's really in the soil. Because last year when I tested it, I amended the soil based on the soil test kit that I got, and stuff did really well, everything except the sweet potatoes, and that was really my fault. It wasn't the anything to do with the soil test kit. I just got them in too late. Now this is really interesting, guys. Now, keep in mind, I have to put my glasses on where I can read this little small print. Now keep in mind, last year this was all new ground. I had cleared it the year before, or the winter before, and it was new ground. Did the soil test kit, came in and put what the soil needed to bring everything back up to where it needed to be at, and we planted in it. Now let's take a look at it. Originally, now this is what shocked me. Originally the soil pH on this, even after I cleared it, was 5.88, and optimal is 5.8 to 7. Now I upped it to 6.5 because I have a meter to check it with. I put enough lime in it, Dolomite lime. I upped it to the 6.5, and I knew that's where it was at last year. Now my nitrogen last year was 1.61, and it was very low because normal's like 32 to 60. And I came in here and I put a lot of nitrogen in this ground last year. And then the phosphorus was 7.54, optimal is 8 to 20. It was very low, so I put a lot of phosphorus in this last year to bring that back up. Now the potassium last year was 64.35, and normal is between 38 and 80. It was actually perfect because of all the dead leaves that was on the ground here, all the rotten wood that I turned into the soil that was here, because I didn't take any of that stuff off of here. I just turned it all back in. I flat broke it and rolled it over and turned it in. So the phosphorus was really good. I'm sorry, the potassium was really, really good. Now the sulfur last year was 1.67. You know, normal is 7 to 22. It was very low. So we put some, when we put the nitrogen in, I used ammonium sulfate to bring the sulfur up and the nitrogen up. The calcium was 220. Optimal is 80 to 320. The calcium was in the perfect range. Now that kind of shocked me right there. But the magnesium was 30.49. Normal is 27 to 70. The magnesium was almost perfect. Sodium was 4.09. Normal is 0.05 to 30.0, which it was in a good range on the sodium. Iron was 3.66. Normal is 3.0 to 10. It was on the low end of normal, but it was still normal. Manganese was 29.37. Normal is 4.0 to 10.0. Manganese was through the roof high. And the reason that is you have to understand how manganese and your micronutrients work, the more organic matter there is in the soil, the more of that's available to your plants. Zinc was 0.29. Normal is 0.1 to 0.25, which zinc was even high. That surprised me. Copper was 0.07 and normal is 0.6 to 0.3. It was in the low end of the optimal range. And let's see here, boron was 0.15. Normal is 0.2 to 0.6, which it was a little bit low, but it did have some boron in it. And I amended the soil last year to bring every one of these back up to optimal range. Now, we grew a garden in that this year, or this past year, and grew, well, as a matter of fact, we kept stuff in there all year long. And when I did the soil test this year, guys, I was really shocked. Now, if you watched my other video, you saw the analysis that was on the soil, but for this video, I'm going to tell you where the changes came in at. Now, I redid the pH on it. We did a new soil sample test. The pH was 5.98. It was in the optimal range. It was a little bit higher than it was originally, which meant that the lime that I put in there was a little bit of it left, so we had to go back and we're liming it again. The nitrogen was exactly the same as it was the year before, which is 1.61. And guys, I put the nitrogen in here like crazy for this garden, which goes to prove that nitrogen does not stay in the soil. It was all used up, and there was absolutely none left in the soil other than a little bit, which is soil sample from last year and this year were identical on the nitrogen. Now, the phosphorus originally was on the low side. And remember, I told you I came in here and dumped the phosphorus in here to build it back up really quick. Last year it was 7.54. This year it was 18.96, which means it's on the high side of optimal. What that tells me is exactly what I've been saying is true. The aluminum that's being put out by chemtrails is binding the phosphorus up in the soil so that it's not used by the plants like it's supposed to be. So the phosphorus that I put in last year is still really high in the soil this year because the plants could not utilize it as well as I thought they could. Now the potassium this year, the potassium last year was 64.35. This year it's 18.22. It is very, very low. So it meant that my plants sucked up most of the potassium that was in the soil. Now the sulfur was 1.67 last year. This year it's 0.83. My sulfur has also gone down, which meant that the plants has used up more of the sulfur in the soil. The calcium last year we said was 220, which was almost high on the optimal scale. This year it's only 40.83. That means that a lot of the calcium that we put in this soil, the plants just sucked it right up out of there and used it up, and there's not hardly any left in the soil. Magnesium last year was 30.49. This year it is 8.31. Our plants used up a lot of the magnesium out of the soil also. Sodium last year 4.09. This year 0.87, which is, this year the sodium is okay. And see, last year I dumped lots of fertilizer in here trying to do stuff with the salt in the fertilizer is still in the ground. As a matter of fact, it brought it up to a level to where it's supposed to actually be at. The iron last year was 3.66. This year it's 0.4. The iron was depleted bad. So our plants did use up a good bit of the iron. The manganese last year was 29.37. This year it's 3.76. What that tells me is a lot of the organic matter that was left in the soil from last year has broken down to the point where the manganese is not available like it was when there was a lot of organic matter. And a lot of people are asking about adding things like manganese and stuff like that back to the soil, and boron and things of this nature. If you up your organic matter in the soil, a lot of these micronutrients will come back to the soil without having to use any other kind of chemical supplements. And that's what we're probably going to be doing, is trying to get as much organic matter back into this soil as we can. Now, this being a peach orchard, there's not going to be any plowing or cultivating done in here anymore. It will mainly be grass, and what I do is just let the grass get up pretty deep, and I chop and drop the grass. And that is putting some nitrogen back in the soil. It's putting organic matter back into the soil. And I'm thinking that we probably are going to be able to see our manganese level come back up. Now, the zinc originally was 0.29. This year it's 0.05. The zinc has went way down in the soil here. Now, we're going to talk about why here in just a minute. I believe this is happening. The copper is 0.07 last year. This year it's just 0. There's nothing. So all the copper was depleted last year by the plants. The boron was 0.15 originally. Now it is 0.03. Even the boron has been depleted. And all of this has to do, and these micronutrients that we talked about, your micronutrients are things like your iron, your manganese, your zinc, copper, boron, things like these. These are micronutrients, and it doesn't take a lot of it for the plants, but the plants do need those minerals. Most of those minerals that I just mentioned are available to a plant if you have enough organic matter in the soil. That's why new ground has a lot of the minerals and stuff like that in it, because you're turning a lot of the organic matter back into the soil. Now, I have all around this garden here, you can't see it, but I have woods everywhere around this garden here that has tons of leaf mold and all that kind of stuff in it. Probably what I'm going to be doing is bringing that stuff out here, spreading some leaves, the old leaf mold stuff all over the ground, and take the lawnmower and just chop it all up and drop it down into the grass and try to put as much organic matter back into this soil as I can to be able to be a benefit to the trees. Now, also, if your pH, we talked about this in the last video, if your pH is wrong, if it's extremely high, or actually it's better the lower it gets, the more of your micro and macronutrients are available, the lower your pH goes, the higher your pH goes. If you get above a 6.5 or a 6.8, a lot of these micronutrients are not available to your plants because it can't take them up. Even if they're there, they cannot take them up. That's why doing a pH test on your soil is absolutely necessary. Now, we see last year this garden, it was right here behind me, it was optimal on, everything was optimal on it except the phosphorus, the nitrogen, and the sulfur. Everything else, and the boron. Everything else was either high or it was optimal, right in the perfect range, because it was new ground and we planted it. Well, after one season of planting, the soil, because this soil here is not a clay soil and it's not a loomy soil, this is a sandy soil right here. And that is one reason we decided not to use it for the garden anymore, is because it being as sandy as it is right here, even though there's some good soil in it, because it's sandy, a lot of the things when you're cultivating and plants are growing in it, a lot of it leaches out of the soil, especially if it gets where the sun can get against the soil. So we decided to turn this into a fruit orchard and let it cover up with grass so that the sun and the damage that it's doing to the land today and the radiation that's being put out, and it can't destroy the soil like it needs to. And plus, there's no more flipping of the soil, there's no more tilling in the soil. The microbes in the soil and everything can do their things at a more even rate for the trees. Now, I probably will not be mowing the grass right up around the trees once they get growing a little bit, simply because if I've learned this at Deep South, if you leave the grass out about a 2-foot radius around a tree, small tree now, not a big tree, a small tree, if you leave about a 2-foot radius around that tree that you don't mow, it keeps those roots shaded from the hot sun during the summertime, and the trees will actually do better than they will if you mow it. Now, we don't do mulching here in the Deep South, because if I come in here and piled up piles of bark and all that kind of stuff, you know, wood chips and stuff around these trees, all I'm doing is creating a fire ant bed for these imported fire ants that we have, and they will literally destroy these trees. I've tried it, it doesn't work. So mulching is out. If I was to pile hay, or it doesn't matter, anything you pile that the sun can heat up and those ants can get up out of the ground, they start building beds around all these trees here. And for those of you who are going to say, well, use cinnamon or use this, that does not work on the imported fire ants. We have literally tried everything under the sun for these imported fire ants, and they're from hell. I mean, I'm telling you, these things are from hell. If you get them on you, they eat you up, and you end up in a doctor's office because some people's allergic to them. I mean, they're the worst things in the world. They come from another country. My daddy told me when he was a kid, they were brought over here in a shipment load of stuff from another country and got started in this country. And when he was a boy, there were none in this part of the country. You didn't have to worry about these ants destroying everything. Now, there's no stopping them. I mean, they're everywhere, and they're moving northward. Those of you in the northern states will eventually have to deal with them at some point, because they're actually migrating north, and I don't know how far they're going to end up, but let's just pray that they stop at some point before they cover the whole nation up, because these things this is the worst things in the world for gardening, for your plants, because they'll climb up the stalks of your plants and they'll eat your fruit off on your stuff. If you grow an okra and stuff like that, they eat the fruit off of it. I mean, they're the worst things in the world for a garden. So a lot of people ask us, why do we put our our raised beds, our containers up on blocks and boards and stuff like that instead of sitting it on the ground? If we sit it on the ground, the fire ants will just go right up in it, and they'll turn that whole raised bed or a tub and all that up into a fire ant bed. Now, this 60-foot raised bed that's behind me right here, right in the corner of it right back here, is nothing but a giant fire ant bed. I'm going to have to come in. The only thing I found that works is to come in right next to that raised bed on the board there and pour some gasoline down in that, and that will kill that whole bed right there and do away with it. And so far, I've not had any negative impacts from using gasoline around the edges. Now, I don't pour it out in the middle of the beds or anything like that, but right around the edges, I do use it, and it has worked. This store-bought stuff we've tried on fire ants, I haven't had none of it that actually worked. Now, understand there's a difference between a fire ant and an imported fire ant. Regular fire ants can be controlled with some chemicals. These imported ones, it don't work on them. So I wanted to take the opportunity today for those of you who was curious about the soil samples, and I want to show you land becomes depleted. Every year when you grow stuff, the land becomes depleted and stuff must be added back to the soil in order for it to be strong and healthy and raise good vegetables and fruit. When you see people plowing fields and planting fields year after year after year, not doing any soil tests, all they're doing is destroying the land without putting back what that land actually needs. Now, 99% of the population today that gardens just uses NPK. They go put their nitrogen or potash or potassium back in the soil, or phosphorus, and they think they've done good. And will the plants grow with that? Yes, they will, and they'll produce with that. But the food you're eating from it is not what's called nutrient-dense food. It's not the best for you. So this is why we encourage people to do these soil tests. Now, this is from Grower Solution. This is a soil test kit. There'll be a link in the description down below if you want to order from this. If you don't, you can order it somewhere else. Or if your county happens to do a very extensive one, use your county, just do it. I mean, I don't care if you buy this or not. There's no skin off my nose. I just want you to make sure your soil's healthy. I want you to be able to raise good food for you to eat. That is a mission I'm on, is to raise good food, because our country, the soil in our country is void of just about everything we need, and that's why our health is breaking down. We're not eating good food. We're the most unhealthy nation in the whole world, just about, and we're one of the most advanced nations. Our priorities is out of whack in this country. So get your soil tested, find out what your plants need, eat healthy, live healthy. Remember, this body right here is a tabernacle of the Holy Spirit. You're not supposed to put anything into this body that is detrimental to it, because it's where the Holy Spirit lives. And you want to take care of the tabernacle that the Holy Spirit lives in. That's why I encourage people, eat healthy. Don't abuse this body by putting junk into it that should not be there. Okay, that's my whole mission on this thing. Okay, the sun's fixing to get on me. I got to get up and get busy. Thank you guys from Pecan Grove.